I like to call the fun list whenever there is a top 10 best movies of 2021. Of course, there's a top 10 worst movies of 2021, or as I like to call it, my top 10 shittiest movies of 2021. You know how this works. These are just the movies that I hate in 2021. I don't want to go in full detail of why I hate these movies. You know what the top 10 worst movies are. Let's just get straight into it. I haven't seen every movie that came out in 2021. I heard music was bad, but I'm better than this. These are just movies that I was curious to see how bad they are, or movies that I'm curious to watch in general, and they just turned out at big piles of shit. So, that's how this list works. These are just the movies I hate in 2021. But which movie I mostly hate? You'll find out in this list. So, of course, before we get into my top 10 shittiest movies of 2021, of course, I have some honorable mentions, or you guessed it, dishonorable mentions. These are the movies that are terrible, but lucky enough, they didn't make it on the list. Starting with Shadow in the Cloud, The Unholy, Space Jam: A New Legacy. Why the hell did I like that movie? I don't understand myself either. The Woman in the Window, After We Fell, Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City, Thunder Force, Sweet Girl, The Unforgivable, and Tom and Jerry. These movies suck. I hate those movies, but the good news is, the biggest positive of all of you movies, you're not on my top 10, because I have 10 movies that are worse than you guys, and it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. So, why not? Let's start doing the fun list. These are my top 10 worst movies of 2021, and of course, we're going to start this list off with number 10. So we're going to start off this shitfest with Escape Room Tournament of Champions. Probably one of the biggest unnecessary sequels that I have seen this year. Seriously, the first Escape Room wasn't that great to begin with. But I think the positive with the first Escape Room is that the escape rooms actually look really cool. So that's the thing, I was like, okay, I'm curious how that's going to turn out in this film. None of the escape rooms are interesting. The characters, I don't give a shit about. I just wanted every single character to die in the movie because they did really dumb decisions in this film. This film is obviously a PG-13 ripoff of Saw. That's these movies. They're basically Saw ripoffs, but they just call it escape rooms so they can make the movies different. No difference. It's Saw, but PG-13, and of course it ends with a cliffhanger that they're going to make a third movie, and oh boy, why do we need that? Coming into my number 9 is the recent Matrix Resurrections. My god. At first I'm just like, why do we need this movie? And then when I watched it, I'm like, why do we need this movie? Seriously. They're making sequels for money, or at least for the sake of it, because it's like, everyone knows the Matrix, right? Let's make a new one for the new generation, because literally this movie doesn't feel like a fourth movie. It felt like a terrible remake that just felt more like a product than a movie, because the movie kind of markets itself in the movie. It's weird. It's a weird movie, and it just doesn't work. Even as a remake, because it does feel like a remake. We get to see the Matrix again. It introduces us to the Matrix all over again. We know the Matrix. Why are they doing that again? New generation? Or just for the sake of doing it? I would say for the sake of doing it. Not even Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss even saved this movie, because I thought the characters are pretty dull in the film. Even Trinity, I'd say her character's the best, but it doesn't save this movie enough. Literally, Matrix Resurrections, I don't know why some people like this movie, because this movie sucks. Oh my god, why? Why do we need more Purge movies? Hollywood, what is wrong with you? Because the Forever Purge proved to us that we don't need these movies. Seriously, I think they're just making it for more money. Like Michael Bay with the Transformers movies. That's what it felt like. It's this Transformers in a new generation. The Forever Purge, my god. I would say the biggest positive with this movie, at least the concept is interesting, but it just follows the exact same formula as the other Purge movies. Literally, none of the characters are interesting. The kills aren't even that great in the film because they're not bloody like the other films. This film actually cuts off some of the violence in the film, which I don't understand. The movie wasn't fun, it was boring, it was just not interesting in general. It just proves to us is that why we need more of these movies. The other Purge movies aren't even that great to begin with, and this movie makes the Purge movies much more worse. Now again, musicals have been great in 2021, but there are some musicals that are pretty terrible. Take Dear Evan Hansen for example. Seriously, I was interested in this movie because I hadn't seen the Broadway musical. And now when I watched the film, I didn't understand why this musical got a Tony and all that stuff. Maybe the musical was different in the movie presented because we have a main character that we first feel sympathy for, and we didn't like because he basically fooled this poor family that he's friends with a kid that committed suicide. What is wrong with this kid? A kid that actually looks 30 years old because he actually is 30 years old. Yep, that's a big complaint for me. Not even the musical sequences saved this movie because I thought the musical sequences are quite boring in this film. Even though some musical sequences are inspiring, it's just how they turn out. It's just a soap opera, and this whole movie is just so boring from beginning to end with a character that's just not likable. Man, hopefully the Broadway is better. Maybe I should see the Broadway after this movie because maybe the Broadway is better. It has to be won the Tony for a reason. I thought the first two movies are bad, but then we got this reboot right here, and it proves to us that the first two G.I. Joe movies are way better than this movie. Snake Eyes, cool character in the G.I. Joe series. We get his own movie, and I was interested, and then the movie just turns out as a generic martial arts movie with some of the worst shaky cams I've seen in a film. Henry Golding saved this movie, but he looks like he didn't want to be there. And literally, what is this movie? Because literally, is this movie trying to be a Snake Eyes origin story, or is it trying to be a normal martial arts movie that is marketed Snake Eyes to make money? Because you see Snake Eyes wearing a suit at the very end of the movie, and that is the shot in the trailer. That's the only time you see him wearing the suit, and it's at the end of the film. This movie has unlikable characters. Not even Snake Eyes is likable in the film. He does some dumb stuff in the film. The action was bad. The whole movie just fails as a comic book superhero film because everything about this film, it just bored me. It's a martial arts movie that isn't cool. Oh boy, guys. We're up to the top 5. Man, M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong. I'm gonna call you that from now on because old frickin' sucks. This is one of the most uncomfortable movie experiences that I have ever had in a theater. A plot that's actually really interesting, but they just make it weird and dumb and really bad acted. Like, literally, the actors just felt like M. Night Shyamalan just kidnapped these people in the beach, and they're just like, act. That's what it felt like, because the acting in this movie was not interesting, and if the acting's not interesting, the story and the plot isn't interesting. I just want to say what happened to him. He started making great, then he got bad, and back to good, and back to bad. Hopefully when he does more movies, it stays good, because Old shows us that he can make something original, but sometimes originality can be good for his movies, and Old is a bright example of that. Now, definitely this is the worst musical of 2021. Dear Evan Hansen is bad enough, but we also got Cinderella. It's a jukebox musical that, like, it doesn't work. What the bloody hell is this movie? This is one of the worst Cinderella adaptations that I've ever seen. Camila Cabello, I really feel bad for her. She really tries in this film. The musical sequences are cringy as hell, and that's this movie. It's cringe. The musical sequences, how they present it in the film, I was laughing my ass off. I wasn't enjoying myself. Only 2 original songs, and they weren't even good enough to save this movie. This movie is also cringe, but 100% more. He's All That. What the hell? The acting, the line deliveries, everything about this movie is just cringe. It's She's All That, but with social media. That's basically this movie. It follows the same tropes, but gender swapped and social media. And it did it terrible. And the same writers of She's All That did this movie. And that's probably the biggest mistake they've ever done. Honestly, this movie was just a pain to watch, and I don't want to talk about this movie. Because there are 2 other movies I want to talk about more than this movie. Just get out of here. Alright, you might be surprised this movie's on my number 2, because I was about to put this movie higher, but the more I think about this movie, the more I'm like, why? Why is this movie even made? Why is this franchise continuing? They should have ended off with 7, because it ended off perfectly. But no, we got an 8-1, we got a prequel, and then we got Fast and Furious 9, or F9, or FU I call it. That's what I'm going to call it. It's FU, because this movie, oh my god, the more times I think about this movie, is more of me thinking they're making this movie for the sake of doing it. They're making an excuse that Dom has a brother where he doesn't mention that in the other movies. And they went to space! In the last act of the movie! They went to fucking space! What the bloody hell? From Point Break with cars to space! And they're gonna make a 10th one? And they say it's gonna be the final one? Man, it fucking better be. Or just leave this movie. Because we don't need more of these Fast and Furious movies. They just get more dumber and dumber and dumber. And even the characters in the movie aren't even acted good, because they felt like they didn't want to do this franchise anymore. They look like they were bored. They look like they know that this franchise is getting way too ridiculous. But we have number 1. That's worse than this movie. Let's just get it over with. Alright. Here we are. What is the worst movie that I've seen in 2021? Already from the first 5 minutes, I literally wanted to pause it and just not watch it again. But I was so brave, I continue watching this pile of shit. Home Sweet Home Alone is a movie. It's a movie we have right now. This movie fucking happened. That's the best thing to explain this movie. It fucking happened. Why the hell they reverse things in the film? They made the bad guys the good guys in the film. And they made a kid an absolute dick. That's the problem. Who freaking pitched this movie? Whose idea they make the bandits the good guys? I don't get it. I don't get it. It's not Home Alone. And they made a kid an absolute tool bag. That's one mistake here. That's what I call the worst movie of 2021. That is what I call a bad movie. That's not funny. Instead of like going, oh, haha, these bad guys deserve it, you feel bad for them. That's not Home Alone. Even if Home Alone 3 and 4 and 5 are bad, at least they focus what they need to focus on. Home Sweet Home Alone, everything about this movie, I just wanted to fucking crush this movie. I wanted to crush this movie to a million pieces. This movie's bad! New generation, bullshit. Watch the original, even the second one. The second one is more of a masterpiece than this movie. Even Home Alone 3 is a masterpiece than this movie. This is the worst Home Alone film. This is one of the worst family films I've ever seen. This movie, I knew was going to be bad to begin with, but I didn't expect this movie to be my number 1 on my worst list. I was expecting to put this a bit higher, but nope. It gone that route. I hate Home Sweet Home Alone. Fuck this movie. That's on my number 1. That's the worst movie I've seen in 2021. It's over, guys. It's over. Those were my top 10 worst movies of 2021. Have to calm down. But the top 10 end of year list isn't over yet. There are some other ones I'm going to do. So, I'm going to surprise you. I'm not going to tell you. You just wait till those videos are uploaded. So, guys, let me know down below. What are your top 10 worst movies of 2021? And do you agree with me on this list? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you guys follow me on social media links down below. Facebook, Stardust, Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd. Keep contact with me. And make sure you guys subscribe to my channel notify for my latest movie reviews and other movie related content. And have a nice day.